Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of the Marc Jeffrey Show on the 8th of the 9th, 2021. Or if you're in the States, it's the 9th of the 8th, 2021. I think that is about right. Episode 193 this week brought to you by those guys at AF Beer Group, powered by the Wise Bartender. Have you ever thought about, going to work tomorrow, but you fancy a beer, but you don't want to wake up with that stinking hangover, or 2 beers, or 3 beers, or 4 beers? You can do it, guys. You can do it simply by getting alcohol-free sent to your door every month by the AF Beer Club, powered by the Wise Bartender. Get on over to Instagram, check out the stuff. They are amazing. They do a wide variety of alcohol-free beers and spirits and all that sort of stuff. Yes, that's right. I said spirits. They do alcohol. I've been drinking too much myself. They do alcohol-free spirits now as well. Get on there and check them out and join the group and join their schedule. They will send you 8 cans of beer every week for, I think it's about $24.99. But that's that over and done with. How the hell are we? Hope you're all keeping well. Very, very busy this way, as per normal. Lots and lots of things going on. And I'm so pleased to have a good friend of mine from America, from Texas. I always thought there was 2 types of people from Texas, steers and queers. He's not a steer. He's not a queer, pardon the pun. He is Howard Blend. Good evening, Howard.
Good evening, sir. I guess I am a 3rd category from Texas then. I'm just Howard Blend. I stand out from the crowd.
You're not just Howard Blend. You are the Howard Blend.
The Howards blend.
Yes. Yeah. Mate, I have to apologize. Before we came on air, I ate a pickled onion. Do you guys have pickled onions over in the States?
Probably. I've never had it before. Sounds interesting, though.
Well, basically, it is an onion with all the skin taken off, the little small onions, right? And then they put them in vinegar and pickle them. And then when you're in a pub, you can have a pickled onion, or if you're feeling really, really goddamn sexy and you really, really want to impress the missus, you can have a pickled egg, because they do pickled eggs as well. Do you not have that over in the bars over in your way?
I don't know about in the bars. I had something like that when I went to Korean barbecue years ago. They had like a pickled type of egg or something in there. I think it's kimchi or whatever it is. It's like all that pickled stuff. But it sounds really good.
Well, years and years ago, I was in the bar with my mate, Al, and we had a pickled egg each, and really nice. I love a pickled egg. You can't beat a pickled egg. Over here in the UK, right, what they do is you go to the bar and you say, can I have a pint of Guinness or whatnot, and I'll have a pickled egg. And they give it to you in like a little tiny, like a little paper cup, or in a crisp packet or something like that. And we were sat there, we'd had a few to drink, and we had 1 pickled egg. Then we had 2 pickled egg. And then Al said to me, Mark, should we buy the jar and have every one of those pickled eggs? We ate 12 freaking pickled eggs each. The next day, oh my God, my guts were killing me. What sort of like things do you eat in the bars in Texas then? So if you used to go into a Texas bar and have a pint, do they have any unusual things that they sell to eat on the side there?
I don't know I don't know too much about to sell, because I would just buy alcohol whenever I go to a bar. But I assume it's like they have hamburgers, French fries, which I think you guys call crisp or chips or whatever, and just sandwiches, just normal fare. But I think if you're at the bar, they just have like peanuts and nuts like there in a little jar, which I don't know if I want to be grabbing the nuts. That sounds weird. I don't want to be grabbing the nuts out of this little jar or a little dish when it's just been sitting out there for whoever to go. I mean, who knows what the hell their hands have been.
Well, it's funny because they done a scientific research on peanuts that was on the bar here in the UK. And what they've done is they left the peanuts on the bar all evening. And then what they've done at the end of the night, they took these things of peanuts and they done a research on them to see what bacteria or anything was in the nuts. And they found that there was 90 cases of semen and urine in with the nuts, where obviously guys and girls perhaps, have been to the toilet, had a wee, and then not washed their hands and come back and delved into the peanuts, and 90 cases of semen and urine.
Gives a whole new meaning to nuts in your mouth.
So you was the last time we had you on the Marc Jeffrey show was episode 144, right? And the podcast was called Facing Your Fears, and it was on the 16th of April, 2020. Now, I haven't had a chance to go back and listen to that podcast, and I don't get chance, I've done so many episodes now, I can't remember what's been on every episode, but it was called Facing Your Fears. Can you remember what we talked about on that episode?
Yeah, we first started, and it seems like ages ago now. We first started off because I was the only American that you talked to that was going to vote for President Trump at the time. I remember we started off with that, and then you found it strange that my wife actually supports President Trump, and she's an immigrant from Mexico.
That's
and you
right.
couldn't understand. You were like, why is that? And we see what happens with the election. That's a whole other can of worms. But then we went on to basically just talking about how I was big on setting goals and my outlook on fear. We just kind of went down that avenue, just discussing like a few of the different topics that I had in my podcast. That's what I remember.
Cool. So how do you feel then in 2021? Trump's gone. Now you've got Biden in charge. How has things changed in the States in 6 months?
Oh, well, I mean, for me, it really hadn't really changed that much. At the time, I think in our first interview, I was working from home, still working from home. I mean, I guess here in Texas, it's, we never really had any lockdowns or anything. We did have mask mandates, and it's really a city by city case. But now there's no mask mandates, there's no vaccine mandates here, no lockdowns or anything. But I mean, it's been kind of the same. On the news, of course, they're gonna broadcast that, oh, in America, like everything's horrible and everything, but that's what sells. But I mean, it seems pretty much the same with me. I mean, you're gonna have people who hate who's the president now, and people who are like, don't think he's done anything wrong. It's just more of the same. What is it? Same old, same old. SOS, same old shit, different day.
Totally right. But how does Biden, fare up for you then? Because like you said, you was a Trump fan, a Trump supporter, Trump follower, whatever you want to call it. Now Biden's in charge. He's quite a different kind of president. What is the general feeling of him over there? He's been in power for about 6 months now, perhaps. I mean, is he getting a good following? And I mean, with all this shit that's going on with Afghan at the moment and pulling the troops out of Afghanistan, how's that fared up?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like with President Trump. So you're going to have the people who thinks that his shit doesn't stink, and it's the same with Biden. There's people that say he does no wrong, and people that say he does everything wrong. So I wasn't a Trump fan. To me, at the time he was the better of two evils, I guess is the term to say. If I had to vote for one, it's like, okay, I'm going to vote for Trump. And I remember mentioning it during our last interview that I said, I don't think Biden's all there mentally. He's got something wrong. And like I said in that episode, it's nothing disparaging on him. I've had my uncle, who my son is named after, he died of Alzheimer's. I saw what it does. My aunt died of Alzheimer's. I saw what it does. It's a horrible freaking disease. And it's like, I'm seeing some of the same things in him, the president, that I see in them. And so yeah, I think some of the stuff that he's been doing, and we can go into that if you want, but it's more and more saying that, okay, I don't think this guy, is he really the president, or is he just the figurehead? But then you could say that about any president. Are they really the president, or are they just kind of a stand-in, and then people who are unelected are really the ones running the show? But what he's done in Afghanistan, I actually agree with. I don't think there should have been any reason. I mean, originally the idea was we have to go to Afghanistan because that's where Al-Qaeda was trained or whatever that did, 9/11. Okay, whatever. But we've been there for 20 years? And I think, the Soviet Union went to Afghanistan.
It did.
And they had to leave. because it's like, I mean, it's a no-win situation. We could have been there for 50 more years, in my opinion. The same thing would have happened. Now, what I disagree with, and what I hear President Biden getting uh, criticism for from some people who may have been supporters and some people who are against him, is the way they got the troops out of there. And to me, it just makes sense. I'm not a military mind, but I mean, even if you watch movies, when you're trying to get hostages out of a situation, the military with the guns are the last people to leave. You get everybody out first, then you got their back with guns and everything. But it's like they did the opposite. It's almost like, let's get the troops out, and then we'll worry about getting all the people out. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. So,
I agree with what you said there. I mean, regarding Afghan, I mean, we went into that country with the wrong reasons. We listened to intelligence that were probably wrong, and that's another story. And yes, it's like the whole Vietnam kind of thing. It was a no-win situation. But one thing that kind of like riled me, upset me a little bit, is the fact that actually Trump was the guy that met up with the Taliban, and he signed a declaration to say that we would be out by a certain date. So he was the guy that got the ball rolling. Whether that's right or wrong, I think that it is right, because like you say, you can't stay there forever and a day, right? But it was the fact that we've had 18 months to get the ball rolling, to get the troops out, to get the people out, to get the military equipment out and everything. And it was like what it always seems to be, everything left to the last minute with no planning. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, we let's just get out. Let's just get out. We all need to get out now. And then, there's people getting killed through bombs, and then it's chaos. And I just feel that Biden needs to take responsibility, in the sense that they've had 18 months to get out, and there was just no clear plans to get out whatsoever.
And yes, you're right that it was an agreement with President Trump at the very beginning. It's kind of started all this, that the troops were going to withdraw. I believe it was in May when they were going to withdraw. And to Biden's credit, it's like, well, hey, he's only been in office since January. So, but I see some of the critics of Biden. Again, I'm not a political guy. I don't really know all this stuff, so I'm only going off of what I hear, and I try to get information from many different sources. And I mean, Biden's the president. He could have changed the deals. Could have changed the deal of withdrawing from Afghanistan. I mean, it's like, we're America. We got the strongest military in the world. It's like, hey, Taliban, you don't like it? Well, come try.
Yeah.
We'll stick where the sun don't shine, or something like that. But that's just me talking. I don't know all the intelligence that he's heard and everything. I don't like that he keeps referring in every press conference like, well, this is the deal I was given. Well, he's broken other deals that President Trump has signed. Yeah. It's like, you have the ability to do that. You are the leader of the country. So, they got on President Trump, because he would blame other people, which, hey, I agree with. If you're the leader, the buck stops with you, right? It's my fault. Even though I didn't directly do anything, it's still my fault. It's my responsibility as the president. It's like, well, Biden, you're doing the same thing. Just take responsibility and then take action to get it corrected. If he would have accepted responsibility and said, like, hey, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z to correct it, I think he would have been treated a lot better, especially in the media, from people who are even his critics. They really wouldn't have, I mean, they would still complain, but they wouldn't have as much to complain about, I think.
But like we've just said there, mate, and I totally agree with you. I don't think it is Biden that's running the country. And in all fairness, I don't think that it was Trump that was running the country before that. I mean, when Trump got into power, he was always going on about building the wall and getting all the troops out, and he was going to do this and he was going to do that. And it was almost like he wanted to get that ball in motion, but there was always somebody there stopping him all along, So, when you are the president of the biggest military operation in the world, do you have the say? Is there people higher than you telling you what you can do? Because that's what it seems like to me.
Yeah, and I mean, on paper, yes. On paper, I guess when I say paper, the founding documents of the country, the president is the commander in chief, or at least I'll feign my ignorance here. I don't know if it's in the founding documents. This is my understanding. The president is the founder in chief, the commander in chief. So he is the head of the military. He's the ultimate boss of the military. So he should have control, but yet every president has advisors kind of telling him what to do. So, and going back to what you said about Trump, well, it's just like any politician. Unfortunately, this is kind of unfortunate, or fortunately or unfortunately, how you want to look at it. They'll say whatever they can to get elected. And then I don't know if they say it knowing that they're not going to be able to fulfill those promises, or do they say it like intending to actually act on what they say. And then when they get into office, then reality hits them in the face and they're like, oh, I really can't do anything, which is part of the part of the U.S. government. Why the founding fathers, I think it's a wonderful form of government, is that no one part of government, executive, judicial, legislative, they can't do everything by themselves. There has to be, it's built with kind of, with like roadblocks in the way. There's so many different hurdles you have to overcome to get something passed, unless you have super majority of one particular party in like the Congress. So I think it's great in that way. It's, what do they call it? Gridlock. That's what it's gridlock, where you can't really get much passed, because I'm very skeptical when it comes to government. When they pass laws, it's usually the little guy that's going to get the brunt of the negative from it.
Yeah. What's sad about the whole thing, though, is that there's been innocent people killed over in Afghanistan. People that have helped the British and helped the Americans, help people to get information, and they've worked alongside us with bankers and weaponry and all that sort of stuff. All these people working in Afghanistan that were Afghanistani people that were promised a visa out of their country. Because they fear for their lives, and they've been left behind. And I mean, that's one thing that upsets me, is the fact that whenever all this shit goes on, innocent people get killed. And another thing as well that's massive in the news at the moment, and I'm interested to hear your point of the view of it over living in Texas, is global warming. And I wanted to bring that up because yesterday was one of the hottest days of the year here in the UK. It was 30 degrees, and I'll let you do the math because you're good at doing that to work out what that is in Fahrenheit. And today, right, it's pissed down with rain all day, with one of the biggest thunderstorms I've ever seen in my life, where I nearly got hit by a branch of a tree that snapped off from the thunderstorm. What is America doing for global warming? Do you see that they are a leader, or do you feel that they're lacking behind? And what do you think they can do to improve?
I think America could be a leader in combating climate change. Just I'll use climate change as that's what I hear. In my opinion, just to state it briefly, I think yes, climate change does happen. There is part of it that is just natural, it happens, but I think that the pollution that we're putting into the atmosphere, into the water, that plays a big part in it. I mean, drive down the road here in Texas, and they got the big-ass trucks that are diesel, and you see all this black smoke coming out. It's like, yeah, it's probably not good for the environment. But I think it kind of goes back to what I was talking about just before with the gridlock that happens. In order for anything to get done, the bill's got to be made, it's got to be voted and then passed, and the president's got to sign it. And then if people want to sue over it, whatever, then it's got to go through the courts, and then it could be delayed. And going back, I think America could be a leader in combating climate change, but people are so polarized, is how I see it, is that you have a fraction of people that don't believe, or I should say a faction of people that don't believe that it's happening at all. And I think President Trump was in on that. He was like, well, I don't believe in global warming, or I may be wrong in that, but I believe I've heard him say that before. So correct me if I'm wrong, everybody listening. He doesn't believe in global warming. There's people that don't believe that global warming's happening or climate change is happening. And then you have people who think, oh, in the next 10 years, there'll be no humans left. There's like these, and it seems like only the people on either side are getting any attention, whereas the people that fall in the middle, like me, I think I fall in the middle, like, yeah, I think it's bad, but I think there's ways that it can be staged, that we can implement changes so not to disrupt the economy, because it's gonna doing something where you're going completely to renewable energy sources per se. That's gonna upturn the economy, like turn it upside down. And there's a lot of people, and we're seeing that now here in America with eviction moratoriums ending because of COVID, where people are going to get kicked out of their house because they can't afford rent. And then now the landlords are, hey, I need the rent money. Where people are one paycheck away from bankruptcy, and it's like, well, now if you go to renewable energy and you change all the way things are done, well, then the prices are going to go up, and it's going to affect, like I said before, it's going to affect the small people. When I say small, people who don't have a lot of money, who are poor, it's going to affect them the most. And I don't know how to get around that, because everybody has their opinions. It's almost like they're just set their feet in concrete, and they're not going to change their mind no matter what you show them. They're not going to change their mind. And that's true in a lot of subjects, but climate change among them.
But I mean, climate change is a difficult one, mate, because like you say, people's lives are important in the sense of work and the economy. But what is more important, people's lives or the economy? It's like the old COVID thing, really. What do? Do you leave everybody at home and let the economy suffer, but people survive? Or do you tell people to burn copious amounts of coal to keep warm, to save jobs? It's a difficult one, because it's a chicken and the egg situation, isn't it? Do we keep the economy running, and do we have oil wells, and do we have fossil fuels burning to keep jobs and the economy going? Or do we just basically all die from climate control, from global warming and all that? It's a very, very difficult one. And I just think that, we're all saying over here in the UK that we're the leaders in climate control and all that lot, and global warming. We are the leaders over here. We're burning less fossil fuels. We've got windmills, wind turbines and sea turbines and all that shit. But Greta Thunberg, she's saying that, well, that's a load of bullshit. This is what the leaders are saying, but it's not actually right. All the aeroplanes that we got flying and all the military equipment that we use, and we're actually not as good as what we're made out to be. And what I'm trying to get at here now is that, we do have to take a stand, and we do have to stamp our feet and say, look, if we don't tell the truth, and if we don't do what we're supposed to do, there is not going to be a world for our grandchildren.
Yeah, and I agree. Yeah, that eventually, it would get to the point, if we continue on how we're doing now, it'll keep getting worse and worse and worse. So, but what you mentioned earlier, is it either the economy or people? Well, if people don't have money to pay for food, which is an economic issue, well, then they die. If they don't have money to get medical care, they get sick and they die. So, I don't know. That is just it. That's as the saying goes, that's beyond my pay grade. I don't know how to fix that. And there's got to be some way they get in the middle. That's the only way I can think of, in the middle, where people can be provided the needs, their necessary food and their shelter and everything, but yet we're doing something to help reduce pollution. Because you mentioned Greta Thunberg, we're having airplanes and everything. Well, what's going to happen if you stop doing airplanes? How are people going to travel? Now you've taken on an entire airplane industry. I'm just guessing, thousands of people that work for it, they're out of a job. What are they going to do to take care of their family then? How are they going to keep warm in the winter? No matter if you have global warming or climate change or not, in the winter it gets cold. They can't keep their families warm. There's got to be somewhere else so they can go, and there's got to be a way to get people to travel, because then it affects business. And if it's for a big corporation, now tens of thousands of people are out of work, or they're got their hours cut or something. So yeah, it's a mess.
What's your experience of it though over in Texas? Because how old are you again?
Too old. 45.
45. So you're 45 years of age. Sorry. You've lived over in Texas most of your life, or if not all of your life. Have you seen a difference in the weather? The other day, about 2 months ago, it was freezing cold. It was all over the news, all around the world, about how, Texas was in real trouble with people possibly going to die, and how freezing cold it was. I mean, that's not a normal thing. Have you seen this sort of thing before?
Not in my memory that cold. We do get cold in the winter, and we do occasionally get snow and ice. But what was experienced, I think, yeah, it was like a week or whatever. It was almost the whole entire state like froze over. And I live, my apartment right out the window is the pool for the whole complex. And that pool was completely frozen over. It was like an ice rink on that pool. It was weird. And going to the trails and running, and oh yeah, that was fun because it gets really windy here in Dallas. I mean, and with that wind, oh my gosh, that wind chill was even colder. But I don't remember it getting that cold for that long a time.
It's funny because Texas is the cool place to live at the moment, isn't it? I mean, Joe Rogan's moved down to Texas, and he's trying to get all of his fellow comedians to join him, and he wants to set up a comedy store down there and all that lot. I mean, are you seeing a lot of like newer people coming into Texas? I mean, I know Texas is a massive place. I mean, we can fit probably the whole of UK 10 times in Texas, and I can't imagine the size of the country. But are you noticing a difference in the area that you live?
Yes, there are more people. I've talked to a few people that I've seen that are new, and they're from different states, either California or in the Northeast. It is a massive state. I'll give you an example. Like from me, where I am, down to the coast, where one of my brothers lives, right there on the Gulf Coast. It's about a 7 to 8 hour drive, and I'm not even at the very top of Texas in what we call the Panhandle of Texas. But I think like with Joe Rogan, he moved to Austin. So Austin is the state capital. It's kind of like in the center of Texas. It's about a 3 to 4 hour drive south of here, where I am, and that's where the population is really boomed in Austin. It's like kind of like what you're saying. It's the cool place to go in Austin because it's most of Texas is very conservative, but in Austin it's very the opposite. It's called liberal. It's very like free spirited, stuff like that. I think there's the term they say is "keep Austin weird." I think is their slogan or something like that. And it's a neat city. I've been there, been there many times. It's a neat city. But yeah, I definitely see more people, and I see more license plates from different states and everything here.
Yeah. So is Dallas in Texas?
Yes, sir. I am in a suburb called Frisco, north of Dallas.
Because I mean, us guys here in the UK, when you mention the word Dallas, you think of JR and the Ewings and stuff like that. Was that a massive thing over in the States?
I think when it was on, on TV, yeah, it was big. The what is it, South Fork? I think it's South Fork Ranch is where they were. That's maybe about an hour drive. I think I've driven by it before. It's not far from like where my parents live and everything. I think it's kind of southeast of where I am. But yeah, I mean, if you mention it, like a Dallas native is going to know what it is, or a Texas native is going to know what it is. But I don't know if any people from other states are going to know that show.
It's funny because it kind of like reminded me when I was just writing a few notes down, of like when I was a youngster watching a lot of American TV, like Different Strokes of Old Arnold, and we had Dallas, we had Dynasty. That was another massive, great big thing that was going on at the time. We had T.J. Hooker and Chips and, Sesame Street. There was loads and loads of television shows here in the UK, but we don't seem to be getting as much American TV on the British TV scene anymore.
I think some of that is due to streaming, like the rise in like was it Netflix, and then now you have Disney Plus. I mean, going back to what you were saying, I remember T.J. Hooker. That had
William Shatner.
Yeah, I was thinking of Captain Kirk, but then I couldn't think of his real name. I remember watching that, and I used to watch one called Emergency when I was a little kid. It's like about firefighters, and I would dress up in the firefighter outfit when I was like 2 years old or whatever. But
then you have MacGyver.
MacGyver, I would, no joke, this is before I really got into like weightlifting and stuff like that. When my parents would go out for their date night, whatever, I would get a large pizza and I would sit in front of the TV and just watch MacGyver. And then my mom's like, "Oh, you're watching MacGyver again. He's gonna like make a bomb out of a paperclip and a tampon." I was like, "That's it. That's MacGyver."
And then you had the Fall Guy. That was another program that I used to watch as well. There were, yeah, when you look back at it, there was loads and loads of programs we used to watch here in the UK, you know, with American guys. And the Dukes of Hazzard, that was a big favorite.
Yep.
You know, I wonder how many cars was it? Was it the Dodge? What car was it they used to drive around in?
Oh, I am not a car person. I wouldn't. It was the General Lee, I think was the name of the car, but I wouldn't know what kind of car it is. I'm not a car person. Did
I mean, they'd never get away with that anymore, would they? Going around with that flag on top of the roof, they'd never get away on
the Confederate flag is. Maybe in Texas, yes, but or some parts of Texas, but yeah, less so now today. In England, did they have Saturday morning cartoons? Like every Saturday morning, they would do cartoons.
They used to. I'm not so sure about now because you know all the kids' TV in the UK now has moved to its own channel. You know, so once upon a time you put on BBC or ITV and they'd have kids' cartoons on in the morning. But now, if you want kids' cartoons, you go to the TV, the kids' channels and watch it. So it's kind of strange, you know, how TV has changed and really how TV is kind of dying in 2021. You know, as you was talking then about people watching TV as they want it on Netflix and watching all of these programs, you know, and YouTube, that's another big one as well. You know, when you can sit down now and watch TV on demand when you want it, you know, TV's kind of dying a bit, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like especially what was it, the network TV? I think I don't know if I don't even watch anything on network TV, and I haven't watched that in decades. But yeah, they used to have here. They had Saturday morning cartoons. Every Saturday morning, you could go back and forth between the different channels: ABC, NBC, CBS. Those are the big three networks, and watch cartoons all day. They don't have that anymore. It's all now like paid programming, extra money. And you mentioned YouTube. That's what my son watches. I mean, we pull up Spanish cartoons, so he's getting exposed to Spanish, and he just watches that on YouTube, and it's great. You just find what you want and then play it. You don't have to find, well, what station is that on? Oh wait, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. They don't play that show until 11 o'clock, and you're like, oh, I gotta wait 2 hours. He said on demand. You just get it when you want it, for how long you want it for.
Yeah, I mean, fitness is a huge part of your life. You know, you touched on weightlifting there earlier on, something that you used to do in the younger days. And you know, you go on the trails, you do a lot of running on the trails, which to me looks very, very dangerous from what I've seen. You know, when I've seen you with cougars running around and there's bears out in there and those woods they skip.
Bears.
But like I say, you know, that is a big part of your life. Weightlifting in the past and trail running, and you've got your own protein powder that you've built up from scratch. I mean, I think we talked a little bit about that on the last episode, but how is it going a year down the line, your protein powder?
Well, I finally do have a product. So it's called Howard's Blend Plant-Based Protein Powder. So it is available online, so on my website and everything. In terms of sales, you know, I've mentioned this before, not what I was expecting, but I had something in the back of my mind that my expectations were going to be more than what was actually going to happen. But it's a process. You know, talking to you guys on our mastermind, you give me advice on how to advertise it and everything. Have other friends that I've talked to about how to advertise it. And slowly but surely, the sales are going to go up. And as the sales go up, I'm going to improve the product, get more products. I've mentioned in our chat, our mastermind chat, I'm working on a pre-workout right now to devise that, you know, getting the ingredients, checking the science on it, you know, the research to see if it actually will do well, and then get that released as well. So it's just every day, little by little, just improving. That's the goal.
Can I ask you a question though? That why? You know, why did you feel that you had to make a protein powder that's different to everybody else's? Why did you feel that it was something that you had to do in your life?
Well, I guess the first thing is it's not different. I guess to kind of get, in my opinion, kind of like on the industry, there's not many ways you can differentiate a protein powder from other brands' protein powder. I mean, unless you have maybe different ingredients, different sources of protein, or most of the time it's different flavors. Some companies, they will partner with like a national brand that makes like candy or something, or a certain flavor, and they'll make their protein powder that flavor. So that's what differentiates them. So for me, it's more or less I'm trying to differentiate myself by promoting myself. Hence why I have the podcast, why I've started putting some of the stuff, the podcast, the video recordings up on YouTube. So using myself and my story to differentiate myself from everybody else, because thankfully there's no other Howard Blend in the universe. Thank goodness. I don't think the universe is ready for two Howard Blends.
What I was saying is, the product that you've got out there then, and you want to make a change, that is absolutely awesome. And I love that, what you're saying, that, you're promoting yourself, because everybody is different. And that's what this show's all about. It's trying to tell people that don't worry about what other people tell you in your life. If you've got a story to tell, you tell that story. If you want to do something, you do that. And I'm really, really thrilled to bits that you've taken it upon yourself to make this protein powder and put it out there. But how difficult was it to do? I can't imagine. Where do you start? You're researching and working out ingredients. What did you need to know, and what did you need to do to set up this project?
Yeah, so the first thing I did is what you said. I did the research. So read about what ingredients will work with other ingredients. I'll give you an example. So in Howard's Blend plant-based protein powder, the version now, there's hemp seed protein. Well, if you have just pure hemp seed protein, that tastes horrible. It tastes like you're eating lawn clippings. It's disgusting. So you don't want to make it primarily that ingredient, because then people won't really like the taste, and then no one's going to want to buy it. So basically, I made the kitchen into my lab. So I bought a lot of raw ingredients off of like Amazon, grocery store, etc. And I just measured it out. I weighed ingredients. I took teaspoons, tablespoons, and I wrote down every iteration that I had. Like, okay, I have 2 tablespoons of this, 1 teaspoon of this, 1 teaspoon of this. Now, did it taste great? No, because I don't have access to like the flavor chemists and stuff that manufacturers have, where they can use different chemicals and they have different additives and sweeteners to make it taste like you want it to taste. But it tasted halfway decent. So what ended up happening, and this is part of my values that we talked about, with transparency, is I had a formula and I shopped it around to different manufacturers. But part of getting in the supplement business is it's extremely expensive. It's very, very expensive. So the formula that I wanted, it was going to be over $50,000 for 1,000 units. So 1,000 bags or buckets of the protein powder. Well, I don't have $50,000 in liquid cash ready to spend. So another issue was distribution. It's like, well, where am I going to store 1,000 units of powder? I've got a 900 square foot apartment. I can't just put it in a room. It's going to take up half the room. So I did more investigation, and I started talking to manufacturers. I started talking to salespeople. I talked to consultants in the industry, and they advised me, Howard, if you're just starting out, one, they said don't start with the protein powder, which I didn't follow their advice on that. But they said to look for what's called a stock formula. So if you go to a manufacturer of a protein powder, you can say, hey, here's my formula, here's the recipe, make it. Or the manufacturers will make just almost like a generic protein powder or a generic pre-workout or whatever, generic vitamins, and they'll put your label on it. So for one, the minimums are a lot lower. So I've seen some that are like 100 units of a particular product. But it's a lot cheaper to get started. So that's what I went with, because I had a lot of other issues going on. I couldn't get a business loan because I wasn't in business yet. I hadn't sold a product yet. So I ended up I did a ton of research into that, and I found the current manufacturer that makes a stock protein powder that's about 80% of what I was looking for in my formula. A few things that don't have, but it wasn't a deal breaker. And the price was right. And I said, okay, let me just start with that. And then I'm going to use every penny that I get to put back in the business to then eventually make my own formula with the ingredients that, all the 100% of the ingredients that I want, the way I want it, which is what I'm doing now with the pre-workout. I'm going to do it with the pre-workout. I'm going to make it exactly how I want it and not use a stock formula. So that's kind of a short, somewhat short summary of how it all got started.
Well, that's awesome, and I wish you all the best on that, man. Because, like I say, in the time that I've known you, you've gone from talking about it to doing it, and that's what I'm trying to promote people to do, is for people to tell their story and don't be a sitter, be a doer, be a person that gets up and does what they want to do in life, and don't worry about what everybody else around you thinks and what they tell you to do. Just get out there, express yourself, because there's always somebody out there that wants to hear what you're saying. Everybody has got a story to tell. And it's great that you're using this protein powder to promote yourself. I mean, I mean, you got your podcast and all that lot. I mean, how's your podcast going?
Oh, it's going well. It's going well. I would like, is what I'd like to be more frequent with getting episodes out. But as you know, as a podcaster and a family man, that life gets in the way sometimes, and that's just what happens. But I like to be more frequent with it, which is why I'm doing more interviews, which is why I bought all this equipment that's right, beneath me, in order to do more Skype interviews, just to get more content out there, get other people's advice. But when I first started to now, even though this is not something that I advise people who are wanting to get into podcasting to focus on, which is downloads, don't focus on that. Just focus on trying to do the best you can, getting good content out there. But if there was a marker in terms of listenership, oh man, it's gone up tenfold, but
Right.
that's over 2 years. And I think to myself sometimes, well, if I would get an episode out every week, which is what my original intent was, where would I be now? But you can't change the past, so only going forward, just try to improve it going forward. So, but yeah, it's good. It's just sticking with it, and just like with anything, don't give up. Just keep at it.
And in the ideal world, you want a podcast that you niche down on. You want to be putting a podcast out every single week. You want to be super edited with great equipment, blah, 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 blah. But in the real world, you can't do that. And, why not, guys, if you're listening to this, pick up your mobile phone, talk into it, use Anchor as a platform to promote you, to get your podcast out there. And just start talking about things in the world that turn you on, the things that you're really excited about. If you're into alcohol-free beers, if you're into coastal walking, if you're into trail running, don't say to yourself, oh, well, who's going to want to listen to my story? Just do it, because people do want to listen. And it's super important that we all get out there and we educate the world and we tell the world about things that's going on. Because if we all sit on our hands and say, well, nobody's going to want to hear me talking about this, then nobody will talk about it. So it's so important that we get out there and tell the story. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. And it's also, off of what you said, it's also kind of the way you present it as well. Because I've listened to podcasts before where it's kind of like, I'm not really into this topic, but then the host really engaged me on it. I was like, this makes it really interesting. I want to listen to this. And some of the topics that when you have on a guest, I'm kind of like, yeah, you know what? I'm not really interested in the topic, but then you're a great host. And then it's like, okay, you pull me in. It's like, I want to listen to this, because everybody's got a story to tell, like you said. And I think when people hear stories of people overcoming challenges, which everybody's overcome challenges, some more than others, it's inspirational, and I think people attach on to that. So just yeah, I also want to agree with your point on just get started. This is something that I was guilty of for 3 years. I said, oh, I'm going to do a podcast, and I didn't do it. I didn't do anything. I had this always this excuse that, oh, I'm investigating, oh, I'm researching how to do it, oh, I'm looking how to do this and looking how to do it. Like, forget all that. Just start where you are. Like you said, you do it on your phone with Anchor, and then, okay, you do the first episode. Okay, then do a little bit of research. Okay, how can I improve on what I just did? Okay, and you do that. How can I improve on the second episode? And then you do it. And just little by little, baby steps. Just get started.
So what, you're going on about the future and talking about progression and stuff like that. What's the progression? What's your goals? What are you aiming towards for the next 2, 3, 5 years? You said that your protein powder is something there to promote you. What are you actually promoting, Howard?
With the protein powder?
Well, you said before that you made the protein powder to promote yourself. It was a form of promoting yourself. So what is it about yourself that you're trying to promote then? What do you want to be in 5 years' time?
Well, most of it goes back to my story. So going from weighing 80 pounds, roughly 80 to 90 pounds for 15 years, and then now, even though I'm not completely where I want to be, coming back from that, literally on death's bed. I'm not lying. I'm not being exaggerating by saying that. I had doctors tell me, you're not going to make it out of the hospital alive. And then here I am, 11, 12, 13 years later, whatever it is, still alive, and then still improving myself every day. And when I say that I want to use the protein powder to promote myself, I guess what I mean by that is I'm using myself to promote the protein powder, because I mean, there's a ton of companies that use pea protein and hemp seed protein in their protein powder. Well, so I can't say, well, we are the only company that uses pea protein and hemp seed protein. No, but then I can use myself, and then people who follow me, like through the podcast, and then through getting more YouTube videos up and everything, and through social media, then say, well, you know what? What's the old saying? Know, like, and trust. I know, like, and trust Howard. I'm going to support him by buying his product, because I'm going to use all that proceeds then to make the product even better. It's good now. I've had it tested and everything. It's a good product now, but I can make it even better. So in the future, like I said, when I have a pre-workout, and I've been looking at even going into foods with it, like making bars, like protein bars, using the powder to make bars, and making other bakery items, which would be good because my grandfather was a baker, so I guess it's kind of in the family, I guess, because I don't know how to bake now, so I got to learn all that. And then for myself, it's just constantly just learning. That's why I do these episodes, listen to my podcast on supplement science and everything. I'm reading through it, and as I read through it, I make podcast episodes about it. So growing in terms of my knowledge, and then trying to keep up my physical body, getting better. I've in that span of time from being sick in the hospital, being released, and then trying to get my life back in order, I've reversed osteoporosis. I had osteoporosis at 32 years old, a disease that people don't get till they're like in their 70s or 80s. And I had it 50 years before that, and I no longer have it, without medication. So it's a constant growth, and then I would say that's what I'm looking to do.
That's awesome. And I think we went into more depth about your illness in the past on episode 144. We talked about that, so I don't want to go too much more on that. But the whole purpose of getting Howard on for this episode, leaking out from August from my holiday, was just to remind you guys that Howard's done an amazing job. He's made a change. He shouldn't have lived to the age that he is now, but he has. And he didn't just sit back there and relax. He's pushing himself every day. He's challenging himself every day. He's trying to grow every day. And I just wanted you to listen to this, because, I'm a huge fan of Howard with what he's doing with his protein shakes and what he's doing with his podcast. And, it's time to make a change. It's time for us all to sit back now and just not sit on our hands, like I was saying before, but this is the start of a new era to make that change. So I just wanted to thank you very much for coming on and just sitting here with me for 50 minutes, for an hour there, Howard, and just having a bit of a light chat, but reminding people about that word change. Whereabouts can we come and find you, to find your product that you produce and your podcast? Where can we come and find you?
Yep. So the website, I have the podcast up on the website and the product. I have shirts up there, the SMB Nutrition, Spirit, Mind, and Body Nutrition T-shirts. It's howardsblend.com. So HOWARDSBLEND.com. So yes, my name is Howard Blend, and the product's name is Howard's Blend. So,
Perfect name. Perfect name.
Same on Instagram at Howard's Blend. I think it's just Howard Blend on YouTube. So you have for anybody watching, my beautiful face looking into this microphone. Especially all you ladies, I know you'll be interested to see this awesome specimen of a human right here.
Such a charmer, such a charmer. Well, I want to end up quickly there, mate. I've got 3 questions here from my son. Right, it's Zach's questions of the week, and I'm gonna have to get a little jingle for it. But he asked me, "What's your favorite milkshake?"
I would say probably the one from, even though it's not healthy, the chocolate one from McDonald's. Even though I don't even think, did he even use milk in that?
I don't know, man. But there's something about. I prefer the Burger King milkshakes. They're a little bit more thicker. They're that hard to suck up. You can't get it through the freaking straw,
I do like thick, like I like my women thick. I do like thick milkshake. I've never tried the Burger King one.
Try it. Favorite music and favorite artist?
Ooh, that's a good one. So favorite music would be like classic rock. And then favorite artist, I'd have to say, people don't really consider it classic rock per se, is Pink Floyd. I love Pink Floyd.
Sweet. Do some awesome tracks. Favorite track then by Pink Floyd?
Mother.
Sweet. And last but not least, and this is an interesting question. I don't know where it came from. What's your favorite word?
Tremendous. That's my Trump impersonation. Tremendous.
Tremendous. Mine has got to be, I think, copious. I love the word copious.
Ooh, that's a good one. That is a good one. Copious.
The first time I heard it was from Lockstock when he goes on about smoking. We make copious amounts of ganja, man. You know what I mean? Copious. I love
that. Is a good word, though.
It is. Or perpendicular. I like the word perpendicular. That's another good one.
You could throw in superfluous there.
Or stuplendos. We'll just start making up some words. Anyway, Howard, I'm going to love you and leave you. I know you've got another life and you're a very, very busy person. Thank you very much for coming on the Marc Jeffrey Show. For you listeners at home, if you want to find out more about Howard, please head over to his podcast. I will leave the links in my podcast show. If you have been inspired by Howard, if you've been inspired by me talking to him and you feel there's somebody in your life that would like to hear this episode, please share it. It's time to share the Marc Jeffrey podcast. Let the world hear all about us. If you have not subscribed, right, please subscribe today. That way this podcast comes to you every week rather than you having to go find it. And I think that's about it, other than, we're on all the social domains. Howard's Blend, look him up. Marc Jeffrey Podcast Show, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. Type in those names, and we will pop up on your screen like an erection on Viagra,
or a bad
Quite
STD.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. Who have I got on next week's episode? I do not know yet. If you are somebody out here that listens to the podcast that feels that they've got something to say and it's time to say it, get in contact with me, the podcast scholar at hotmail.com. Say, Mark, I want to get on next week's episode, and we will fit you in. But I guarantee we will have somebody on next week with an amazing story to tell. But other than that, guys, stay safe, stay classy. Last words from Howard.
People listen to Marc Jeffrey and his podcast. He's a wonderful man. He's doing great things. And I give him 3 thumbs up if I had 3 thumbs. But support the good man.
Sweet. You take care, Howard. Love you loads. Catch you soon, mate.
Adios. Bye-bye.